I have the privilege of introducing you to a fellow that I grew to know over the past year or so. He's the short guy standing right there. Now, I'm told that I'm supposed to look up to my elders, but with him, I can't help but look up. Kevin Noreen is one of those guys that, how do I put this? Quiet, strong, faithful, and a nice guy. Kevin Noreen is going to speak to us tonight. So, Kevin, would you come? And folks, would you pay attention?
You guys hear me? Is this on? Good. Yep. Yeah, I think I've got Rev's headset on, and it is huge. I mean, I say it as lovingly as possible. You got some big ears. So, just saying. Thank you, Jim, for the introduction. But for those of you that don't know me, again, my name is Kevin Noreen. And I was a former WVU scholarship athlete for the Mountaineers basketball team for, again, 5 years. And that defined me. But now I'm an apostle for Christ. I'm going to share with you 10 key points throughout my testimony tonight. Now, within these 10, keep in mind that my overall point here is consumer of Christ versus contributor for Christ. Now, what are you in that? And I'd encourage you to write down these 10 points if you can, or take out your phones and get your notes out for it, because I think they're going to hold value long after this evening is through. My first point is this, and it's an open question to Christ followers. Is God your model, or is he your mannerism? Now, the world will say, God gave me these inherent desires for a reason, and I'll act upon them as I choose because God wants me to be happy. Is that not the lie of the world today? When I hear someone say that, I know that God is just their motto, not their mannerism. I know that because that used to be me. Sociologist Christian Smith calls this moralistic therapeutic deism. I call it something simpler. I call it back pocket Jesus or trunk Jesus, right? Lord, I've got a game tonight. Help us win. I've got a test that I really didn't study for too much, but I need an A. Help me to make the grade, Lord. And when I'm done with that, I put them back in my back pocket or in the trunk. I think this is true for many in society because they believe that society, or as a whole world, it's about them and their happiness. But I think this is true for a lot of us too. Now bear with me and think about this. How many of us have online pages that are dedicated to highlighting the very best parts of our lives and sharing them with others whether or not we ask to see them or not? All right, that's Facebook. But tonight I'm going to share with you how I've learned that it's never really been about us and how God has led me from my selfish sin to selfless service for him. And this is point 2. Again, this is the main point for tonight. There are many consumers of Christ, but there aren't many contributors for Christ. And this summer I worked in Houston for Marathon Petroleum, a great company, Fortune 25 company. Just blessed to have had that opportunity. So I worked my normal shift hours with them during the day, but in the evening, I craved to have the time that I had available to spend it with God. So as a result, I was going to church as often as possible in Houston, and that for me, that was 3 times a week. Now, I attended a Saturday night service there, and after that ended, I went up to have some casual conversation with the pastor, and I kind of got roped into going to dinner that night with the pastor's daughter. Yeah, I was excited, right? Hey, this is someone my age. I'm alone in Texas. I don't know anybody down there. Hopefully she had the same passion for Christ that I did, and we'd have could share some good conversation. So we talked about a variety of topics, and we got to talking about relationships. And I said, I didn't believe that it was godly for an unmarried couple to live together. And she looked at me with a look of surprise on her face. And she said, I never heard anyone talk like that before. I think my look of surprise probably beat hers. She also talked about mission trips that she'd done in the past year in Asia. But she never talked about how she was using those mission trips as a platform to advance the gospel. And that was when I learned that there are many consumers of Christ, but there aren't many contributors for Christ. For 23 years of my life, that was me too. And over the past year at Kingdom, I've seen the difference between motivation and transformation. Spending the summer in Texas made me appreciate what we have here at Kingdom, because none of this, right, none of this is about us. And several people at Kingdom have shown me that it's about Jesus. There's people like Brent and Dee Dee Wilmoth, who've trained me for the path that God has me on, and they've shown me an example of what a godly marriage looks like. That's Josh Sanoga. Josh Sanoga meets with me several times a week to challenge me and to teach me spiritual leadership. It's people like Bill Nevin. And Bill takes me to his office nearly every morning. He teaches me the importance of daily communication with our Lord, and that's through prayer. There's people like Chelsea Malone. Now, I'm sure Chelsea's done a lot for each of you through her singing. But Chelsea sang she sang Amazing Grace last year at 2 in the morning over the 36 hours of prayer during Easter. There might not have been more than 3 people in the sanctuary when she sang that, but she sang it as hard and as well as she could. And that really inspired me because she was singing it for the Lord. Doesn't matter who was in here. And obviously, Pastor Kevin, giving me the opportunities last year at Kingdom, even when I didn't think I was ready for them. Thank you, Rev. God uses Kingdom selflessness to build apostles of Christ in so many different ways. I'm just blessed to have them building me too. And this is point 3. They've shown me that motivation comes from attending church, but true transformation comes from seeking Jesus Christ first. Now for my story. Pastor Kevin shows his selflessness every summer when he opens his home to WVU FCA kids. Now, Rev, I remember this night. It was June 16, 2014. And you made these ribs on your smoker. And they were awesome. They were so good. And you had a message that night, and it was, living for the world, living for Christ. You have to choose one because you can't, there's no middle ground. Satan owns the fence. I remember you said some other things too, but again, I was eating those ribs. I was just a consumer back then, not a contributor. And I'm sorry, I forgot the other parts. But you did read from Luke 22, and we're going to read that tonight. Luke 22, verse 54 through 62. And before he read this, he said, pay attention to the fire. All right, so pay attention to the fire here. My eyes aren't good enough, so I'm going to turn around and read this. Then seizing him, they led him away and took him into the house of the high priest. Peter followed at a distance. And when some there had kindled a fire, right, there's the fire, in the middle of the courtyard, he sat down together. Peter sat down with them. A servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight. She looked closely at him and said, this man was with him. They're talking about Jesus. But he declined it. Woman, I don't know him, he said. A little later, someone else saw him and said, you are also one of them, one of the disciples. Man, I am not, Peter replied. About an hour later, another asserted, certainly this fellow is with him, for he is a Galilean. Peter replied, man, I don't know what you're talking about. Just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed. The Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. Then Peter remembered the word the Lord had spoken to him. Before the rooster crows today, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. And after Kev finished reading this, he looked up to the group and said, you can't stand with God while you're sitting warming yourself by the enemy's fire. And those were the most convicting words I ever heard, because I could tell people I was a Christian. I did it all the time in interviews, but did I actually know God? Even demons believe there's one God, as it says in James 2:19. I was no better than that. Now at that time, I'd also undergone 3 surgeries over the previous 2 months for injuries that I played with that year. So we're talking the 2013-14 basketball season. I suffered an avulsion fracture in my hamstring, a broken wrist, as well as a hernia. Now, I chose to play with these injuries because I did not want to let my teammates or Coach Huggins down. So I was getting Toradol injections, cortisone shots, whatever type of treatments I could to make my body stable enough to play and practice and in games. But also because the previous offseason, I put in more time than I ever had before in the gym and the weight room, preparing my body for the rigors of the Big 12 Conference. But playing hurt in the best conference in college basketball made me an ineffective player that year. So naturally, I was angry. And as I searched for answers, I began to blame God. Why, God, would you take this away from me? You know how much basketball means to me. It's the one thing that I love. But how could I be mad? And I think about this now. How could I be mad at someone I didn't even know? It's those surgeries that God turned into the biggest blessings of my life, because they got me going to Josh Sanoga, and Josh is our FCA team chaplain for the men's basketball team. Got me going to Josh for help. Now, I mentioned my body was broken. But like my body, most parts of my life are broken too at that same time. I was not in a God-honoring relationship with a girl that I'd been dating the previous 6 months. I even signed a lease to live with her beginning that next fall. So you're talking the fall of 2014. And when I signed that lease, I knew it was wrong. But honestly, I didn't care. God used Josh to help my understanding of the injuries, and it was Rev's message, you can't stand with God while you're sitting warming yourself by the enemy's fire, that God used to change my life. The life I was living was frankly the definition of hell on earth. I was serving myself in what I wanted and saying that I was serving Christ in what he wanted. But when in reality, God always lost. Now, after I heard Rev's message, I broke that lease, and that relationship ended. I'm going to shift gears here and go into basketball a little bit. So basketball at WVU is interesting, right? Interesting is probably a good word. I'm sure many of you know that. You guys have probably lived here in the state longer than I have. I know you've seen things on TV, things you see in the newspaper. There's a kind of a tongue-in-cheek motto that they told me on day one, and that's basketball is number 2. See that? Basketball is number 2. Academics are number 1, right? So we had coaches there that keep a Bible on their desk, but they openly tell you to, hey, go do you on the weekends. Basically meaning go do what you think makes yourself happy. Doesn't matter what the consequences are. Got to live in the moment, right? I heard one coach say to a player just last week, he said, you better get all you can right now because once you're married, it stops. That's as descriptive as I will be with what he said, what he really said. Church will be there for you on Sunday. How about that lie? Church will always be there for you on Sunday. That's a lie that I bought into for 4 years because it was convenient. And this is point 4. Jesus is not a convenient companion. He's the constant Christ. Let me go into point 5. Point 5 is dedication defeats distraction. And one time last year, during one of my rehab sessions for the numerous surgeries that I had, I was listening to a sermon podcast in our training room, and one of our support staff coaches came in and he said, what the blank are you listening to? Right? I won't say the word, obviously. But I think it was Charles Stanley. And I thought, wait, right now we have guys on the practice court that are listening to music that, quite honestly, should probably have every other word censored. But you're going to come in here and you're going to question what I'm listening to? Charles Stanley? Oh, all right. Well, then I realized that Jesus, or Charles Stanley, is not the normal in the world, especially in that basketball facility. But this is the power of God. There's not a place that he can't work and a place that he cannot reach. And ironically, I was baptized in the basketball facility in October 2014. I was a new creation, and I really felt that. But it's not the initial yes, it's the follow-through that counts as faith. Right? Are you following through to this day? Now, I was actually going to play out my last year of basketball for the 2014-15 season, so you're talking about, that's last year, that's a Sweet 16 year. But during a preseason lift, I tore my shoulder, and I had to have another surgery. That was season-ending surgery. So come December 2014, I no longer had any future in basketball. Basketball is done. The one thing that I really loved, it's gone. And this is when God really got my attention. I went through much of January 2015 trying to find God's will for me, right? It wasn't to be in a relationship. It wasn't to be playing basketball, as hard as that was to understand. So what was it? I wanted to know. So I read everything I could in the Bible. I prayed. I went to everything I could here at Kingdom, listened to endless sermons, just try to figure out what it was that God wanted me to do. I fasted. I prayed with Don. I'm not sure if Don's here tonight, but I prayed with Don in that corner every week for patience. That's a dangerous prayer, right? But I did. Don prayed with me, and I wanted to keep my mind solely on Jesus. But by March 2015, I realized something. I realized that I was walking in God's will because I was seeking him constantly, putting him first in every area of my life without distractions. I learned that dedication defeats distraction. But one very important thing had to happen first, and I need to go to the stage to show you this. I couldn't go through life any longer telling Jesus to get in the trunk. No, I couldn't go through life doing that. I couldn't go through life telling him to get in the back seat. I couldn't go through life even telling him, hey, Jesus, get in the front seat. You're my co-pilot. It's you and me. We're going to go through life together. No, it wasn't until I took the keys out of the ignition. I said, you drive. You drive. And that's when I saw the change. We're going to go to point 6. If you skip the monotonous, you miss out on the miraculous. Last spring, God tore me down, but he began to rebuild me. And by the time I went to work in Texas, I was so consumed with God and wanting him more and more. Right? But I was still alone. I had this new faith and this fire for it, and I wanted to share it with someone. Right? It's hard being alone, right? And I sought encouragement. It was then that God put Nehemiah's story into my life. And we know that Nehemiah was tasked with rebuilding the walls around Jerusalem, and Nehemiah had his enemies, Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. And they did whatever they could to get Nehemiah off that wall because they did not want him to finish it. And we're going to see Nehemiah's response to his enemies here. Through his messenger, he said, I'm doing a great work and I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? Right? I'm doing a great work and I cannot come down. God had me on a wall and I couldn't come down until he said it was finished. I had to learn that loneliness is a required course for leadership. Now, why is that? Because what God had to do through me when I was alone prepared me for what he called me to do from September to this very moment. And it's nothing short of a miracle. In just these past few months, I've given my testimony for the first time. I've spoken at schools on the love of Christ. I went to churches to lead their worship. I've given messages on Jonah, Hosea, Philemon, Jesus, Peter. Yes, I said Philemon. Jesus, Peter, Nehemiah, and Paul. At our Connect College ministry, which we used to have here Saturday nights last semester, now it's at Kevin's house every other Wednesday. That's a shameless plug. As well as the 70-plus students that attend our weekly FCA huddles on campus at WVU. Well, that's an absolute miracle for someone that didn't know much more than the Sunday School Hall of Fame verse. And no, it's not John 3:16. This is the verse that you had to pull out of your pocket when you didn't do your memorization, and you had to say one verse. We can put that up now, Nathan. Yeah, John 11:35, Jesus wept. That's all I knew. But my trust is in him now, and this is point 7. God isn't someone that I try to understand. He's someone that I stand under, and that's it. Now, I didn't verbally deny Christ like Peter, but I did it with my actions. And just like God did with Peter after he denied Christ, he set me on a comeback story too. Now what were once my tools for temptation, he's turned into tools for transformation. Now I'm able to tell people what God has done in my life to encourage them. Are you encouraging others? So what was once my mess, God has turned into my message. And what was my test is now my greatest testimony. But I don't stop there. We must pursue God with our hearts every day, even when it gets monotonous. Because if I had skipped the monotonous, I would have missed out on the miraculous that God has done in me. I'm listening to Kev as long as I have now. I know I need a little bit more practicality in the message, so I'll add that here. I'm going to close with this. So some of you might ask, I want to be a contributor too, not just a consumer. How do I do that? Well, you get in the Word, you fast, you pray, you worship, and you get a Barnabas to teach you. You get someone that knows more of the Scripture than you to pour into you, and then you in turn pour into a Timothy, someone that knows less than you. You also take advantage of the opportunities that God has given you. Now for me, basketball has given me a fantastic platform to reach thousands of people, whether that be through access to local Morgantown schools or through social media. Now social media is not all bad. My Twitter account has 3,000 followers, and believe me, it's not because I'm interesting. If you really know me, I'm not that interesting. I'm just a normal, semi-athletic, 6'10" white guy. That's all I am. It's because of basketball and what it means to this state, right? But if you see my tweets, I mainly tweet Bible verses or biblical references. Now, these are 3,000 people that God has given me the opportunity to engage for Christ. This is point 8. What are you doing with the platform that God has given you? But you also see where God is at work, and you join him there. And this is point 9. Where is God at work in your life? I'm going to land the plane with this. A lot of millennials struggle with submitting to anything. Now, single men, once we're married, we have to submit to our wives and love her the way Christ loves the church. But most importantly, we have to submit to Christ in all that we do. And we're called to be humble in that as well. So humility comes from Christ's death on the cross. So no matter how much life beats me up, I know that Jesus thought I was worth dying for. But no matter how proud I get or how boastful I get, I know that it took Christ's death on the cross to pay for my stupidity, my ignorant sins. Humility comes from Christ's death on the cross. Therefore, and this is point 10, true humility is born from grace. Therefore, humility is grace embraced. Are you embracing grace? I want to encourage you not to skip out on the monotonous, because if you do, you'll miss out on the miraculous that God has in store for you. And when we think that it's not fair to deny ourselves, may we look to the cross and remember what really wasn't fair. A perfect God became a perfect man to die for us, to enable us, the sons of men, to become sons of God. Thank you, Pastor Jim. That was C.S. Lewis, and you turned me on to him. I'm not sure where you are, but thank you. It's about belief, not behavior. It's about belief, not behavior. And when we truly follow Christ, I don't have to change. I get to change because I want to be more like the Son. I'd planned on closing with that. I'm going to go a little bit off script here. Kev played the blind devotion video after his sermons on Sunday. If you didn't see it, if you weren't here on Sunday, I'd recommend you look it up. And I thought, how parallel is that to my life and to the way I was acting when I was blind, the way God treated me when I was blind? Right? He was the one picking up the eggs after I spilled them. He was the one pushing the tomato just into sight so I could cut it. He was the one taking care of my dirty laundry. He was the one standing on the crosswalk helping me cross the street. And he was the one sitting just behind me on the bus, just out of sight. And when I realized that, I thought, what an awesome God we serve. And I began to cry right there in my seat. Are you a contributor to him or just a consumer of him? If you aren't, time to make the change. Thank you.